Let's say you give your buddy $100 to go buy groceries for the house. He comes back 3 hours later with no groceries, a private jet, Miranda Kerr on his arm, and a receipt for a Hollywood movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And when you ask him where your $100 went, he just shrugs and goes, "What $100?" And Wall Street's response? They handed him another few $billion. Let's travel back to 2009. The world economy was slowly waking up from the nightmare of the 2008 subprime mortgage meltdown, and international investors were looking for anything that smelled like safe yield. Suddenly, a brand new entity walks onto the global stage, the 1MDB, One Malaysia Development, not two. Just one, and it's already spelled disaster. It was supposedly a state-owned strategic development company to drive blah 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 economic growth through global partnerships and foreign investment. And sure it did. It brought a boring government savings account to the biggest financial heist in human history. All right, pull up a chair. Let me explain how a 27-year-old kid stole $4.5 billion from an entire country, and why, right now in 2026, the US government is still digging through the couch cushions in Abu Dhabi trying to find the missing change. All this happened in a small country in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, where it's famous for its Petronas Twin Towers. Imagine Malaysia has a giant national piggy bank. It's called a sovereign wealth fund. The idea is simple. The government puts money into this fund. The fund invests in boring, safe things like power plants and real estate, and the profits help build schools and roads. Make sense? This is Joe Lowe. Joe wasn't a math genius. He didn't have a PhD in economics, but he had a superpower. He knew how to talk to people who controlled billions.
You one of us now?
Well, if you can't beat him, join him. Then fuck it, beat him.
He went to a fancy boarding school in London, and he mingled into the elite group and became the best friend of the son of the big shots in Malaysia. And he figured out one brilliant, terrifying thing about rich people. If you throw $1 million party and buy all the champagne, billionaires will just assume you're a billionaire too. So, Joe cozies up to the Malaysian Prime Minister then, Najib Razak, and basically says, "Hey, let me help run that piggy bank. I know a guy who knows Uncle Don." And the Prime Minister says, "Sure, why not? Here you go." Mind you, Najib signed off on a structure where he had absolute unilateral authority over every single investment. No committee checks, no board vetoes. Just one pen to move billions. But look, if you want to rob a liquor store, you buy a ski mask. If you want to rob a sovereign wealth fund, you call Wall Street. Call Goldman Sachs. Around 2012, 1MDB wanted to raise a ton of cash. So, Goldman Sachs helps them issue bonds. Now, a bond is just a fancy IOU. Investors give 1MDB money today, and 1MDB promises to pay them back with interest later. Goldman Sachs raised $6.5 billion for them. And for doing this paperwork, Goldman charged 1MDB $600 million in fees. That is roughly 9%. In the banking world, charging 9% for a bond issue is like a real estate agent charging you $1 million to sell your shed. Yes, really. But here's where the actual magic trick happens. This is the part that is so dumb, it's actually genius. To sell these bonds, 1MDB needed a cosigner. You know, like when your dad cosigns your first car loan so the bank trusts you? 1MDB used a massive, legitimate state-owned fund in Abu Dhabi called IPIC. IPIC has a real, legitimate subsidiary called Abar Investments PJS. To say thank you for co-signing, 1MDB was supposed to send a security deposit of about $1.36 billion to Abar. But Joe Lowe and his crew didn't send the money to the real Abar in Abu Dhabi. They set up a fake shell company in the British Virgin Islands and named it Abar Investments PJS Limited. It's literally like you owing money to the IRS. So you write $1 billion check to the LRS, but you use a lowercase l instead of an I, and mail it to your shady cousin in the Caribbean. And the global banking system just went, "Yep, looks good to me."
All I did was try and send money.
It's a scam that goes from Houston to the West Indies to some bank who knows where.
They're getting away with murder.
Which is bad.
Bad? Yeah, bad is such a big word. for being such a smooth.
Once the money hit that fake Caribbean company, it exploded out into the world, and Joe Low went on the wildest shopping spree in human history.
I'll take it all. Here you go.
Certainly, ma'am.
He bought a $250 million super yacht called the Equanimity. He bought a $35 million jet. He bought Picasso paintings. He bought a transparent grand piano for Miranda Kerr. And, in a twist so ironic it breaks my brain, he used the stolen money to fund the movie The Wolf of Wall Street. A movie literally about a guy going to jail for financial fraud, funded by a guy committing financial fraud. You cannot make this up. It was a never-ending party. Paris Hilton and celebrities attended. But while the champagne was flowing in Hollywood, back in Malaysia, the floor was quietly, dangerously cracking. Because remember those bonds? That $7.8 billion in debt? Yeah, somebody actually had to pay that back. By 2015, journalists at the Wall Street Journal started asking the really uncomfortable question, hey, where is the actual money? And the answer was, it's gone. The house of cards collapsed. The US Department of Justice stepped in and called it the largest kleptocracy case on record. The Prime Minister went to prison. Goldman Sachs had to pay billions in fines. And Joe Low? Poof. He vanished. He is currently an international fugitive under the fancy Greek alias Konstantinos Achilles Vase, Australian passport, basically living like a Bond villain somewhere in a private luxury estate in China, maybe. So, game over, right? The bad guys got away, the money is gone, end of story. But wait, it gets weirder. Because if one MDB taught us anything, it's that money leaves a trail. Fast forward to 2026. While Joe Low is hiding, the accountants have been working overtime, and they've actually been pulling off a miracle. In May 2026, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission announced that they have recovered 31.3 billion ringgit. That is roughly 6.6 billion US dollars. They have clawed back exactly 74.5% of the estimated money that was originally stolen. In the world of massive, global financial crimes, finding 75 cents on the dollar a decade later is completely unheard of. It's a massive win. But hold on. If you find 74.5%, that means 25.5% is still out there. And right now, the DOJ is playing the final boss level of asset recovery. They are literally still hunting for change in the couch cushions. Just this May, in 2026, the DOJ seized a luxury apartment in New York worth $6 million. Who did it belong to? Not even a mastermind. It belonged to Joe Low's personal assistant, Mei Ling Catherine Tan. But the real prize, the white whale, the DOJ is currently hunting for $1 billion that vanished into the desert. Remember that fake Abar company? The DOJ's latest 2026 filings show they are tracking $1 billion that got funneled back through former Emirati businessmen and buried in Abu Dhabi. This isn't flashy yacht money anymore. This is stealth wealth. It's locked up in trusts, hidden in anonymous LLCs, and buried in real estate. The money is fighting back. So where does that leave us? Joe Low didn't just steal $1 billion. He weaponized the global banking system. He used the fanciest bankers and the biggest loopholes to take money meant for roads and schools and turned it into Hollywood movies and private jets. And while he's probably sitting in Macau right now, drinking a very expensive cocktail, if you are a taxpayer in Malaysia, you are the one left with the tab. The Malaysian government had to absorb one MDB's debts. You are going to be paying off those 30-year bonds until 2039. The yachts have been sold. The Hollywood parties are over. But when a 27-year-old kid can buy a country with its own money, and $1 billion is still floating around in the desert somewhere, and he's seeking pardon, who's to say someone smarter isn't doing it again right now?